제 전부 저도 님이 전에 혼음 전부가 되다 바크라다는 전도 실물도 돈바 되잖아 기시험서 저러 저기 점검서 저거 되기셔도 일라나 지금에 본조 자라서란데 공개 또반 보러 신지로 공개 또반 보러 신지로 공개 또반 보러 신지로
Profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. We can hear and follow it. May we fully realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate sentient beings, please generate bodhicitta. The Tibetan version of the Ksitigarbha Sutra is a bit more extensive, requiring a more comprehensive and detailed approach. This margin actually should be just a little bit wider, providing some necessary additional room. What's the reason? Is it because there's no proper paper available, or it still can't be printed successfully? The printer isn't really working, is it? Logically, the margins on both the left and right sides should be made a bit wider than they currently are. Overall, the current layout is still quite acceptable right now. Let me recite the Tibetan text first. Then you can simply check it against the original Chinese version of the text. If anything is missing or there are any other issues at all, please let us know. Those who understand both Tibetan and Chinese, can you take a careful look? You just need to carefully look at the Chinese text, and I will then recite the Tibetan for you. This recitation is not intended as a formal transmission recitation. Instead, it is purely for essential proofreading purposes.
Chimburnam Hanchigdan Dine, Jundande, Shakyatabe, Nimar Ngabdo, Injictinder, some Gimikibi, Shereptan, some Gimikibi, Zamjiti, Stoblak, Semson of Durka, Nam Tarjan, Dirdik, Churnam, Labram, Ken, Bala, a rapt of Tocham, Nobram Zato, Tetak, Ranranga Nene, Nerde, Jumdan de la, Tetak, Ranranga, near name Nerne, Jumdan de la, Kam Javar, she saw. Come Javar Shiso, Tenip Jumden de Jar and Zamba, Zat Ne, good Sarvi. Gorsari Chimbo, Gaston Shia Chapchu Chubati, Teang, Zoba Chimbo, Gorsari Chenda, Shereptan, Nerji Chimbo, Gorsari Chenda. Sherb Chimbo, Gorsari Chenda, Parod of Shimba Chimbo, Gorsari Chenda. Tangenzen Chimbo, Gorsari Chenda, Trashiba Chimbo, Gorsari Chenda, Sonum Chimbo, Gorsari Chenda, Yundun Chimbo, Gorsari Chenda, Jamju. Chimbu Gorsari Chundang, Totnger Chenbu Gorsari Chundang, Terter Jotomepi of Chuno, Terter Jotomepi Gorsari Chunam Chune, Ngumsari Giant, Natsok Chopper Kirte. The young Jimbi Parod of Shimbi Giant, Satamji Parod of Shimbi Giant, Uzopi Parod of Shimbi Giant, Tundi Parod of Shimbi Giant, Santundi Parod of Shimbi Giant, Sheripki Parod of Shimbi Giant, Shambada, Nyanji. Parod of Shimbi Giant, Galadan, Tanhum, Gi Parod of Shimbi Giant, number Jury Giant, Zabamepi Giant, Sheripki Giant, Sherip Chimbo Giant, Sinking Arrow Giant, Sinking Arrow Chimbo Giant, Chundam G Giant, Chundam G Chimbo Giant, Terjutumepi Giant, Mumjik in Jitin, the Tang Jitin Jan Bani, Sam the Mepa, Janlin Depi, Hadan, Lodan, Mumma in Lasoba, some Chitsasam, dear Nader and Diso. Deyang, Gerchin Rigjudan, Samshir Saxamdan, Tapjerdan, Gardendan, Chagadan, Jamcher Wangshidan, Tsang Ridan, Tsamba, Danandondan, Tsamba Chimbodan, Gochondan, Sadme Gotan, Gosserdan, Gechondan, Sadme Gedan, Gergedan, Sunum Kedan, Chenme Gotan, Sunum Gavadan, Jever Chedan, the Shi Mepadan, Machewadang, Magdongwadang, Tianongwadang, Shendam Tongwadang, Gomendang, Wangshik Chenpo Dang, Namkam Tayi Dang, Namshim Tayi Dang, Jiang Mepa Dang, Yodmin Memmede, Ji, La Dang, Hle Dang, Jigdun La, Soba Tamshik Nedrin Diso. Deni Memjin Jikten Dedang, Jikten Janba, Ne Gongwe, Ryamsu La Dang, Chilong La Dang, Chu La Dang, Shenga La Dang, Ru La Dang, Si La Dang, Sige La Dang, Sige La Dang, Lotok La Dang, Nimu La Dang, Samu La Dang, Namki La Dang, Anamgi La Dang, Zaptung La Dang, Zishing La La, Sobayang Netrin Diso. Deni Memjin Jikten Dedang, Jikten Janba, Ne Lagbe, Ji Gerpo Namde, Mugambin Ji Gerpo Dang, Chumjimbin Ji Gerpo Dang, Liki Zomjimbin Ji Gerpo Dang, Ngardan Kam. Kamram Jimbin Jay Gerbodang, Dugdui Jay Gerbodang, Shamba Janjin Jay Gerbodang, Sonumdang, Pamba Jimbin Jay Gerbodang, Ga Ki Chimbun Jay Gerbo La Soba Neterin Di So.
This particular time, I am diligently teaching the profound Ksitigarbha Sutra. I will not delve into extensive detail, but rather provide a general explanation. This approach is adopted because I have noticed that if I explain it in meticulous detail, word by word, there should be quite many detailed commentaries, thorough explanations, and comprehensive lecture notes available in Han region. There are indeed so many, so I personally think it's not absolutely necessary. Everyone gathered here today should have already studied it many times as well. So almost everyone is quite familiar with the profound Ksitigarbha Sutra. Some people recite the Ksitigarbha Sutra every day for their whole lives. Some people have listened to it many times and studied it repeatedly. I think if I were to explain it in very great detail, it might not really be necessary either. So why am I teaching it this time? There are a few reasons. One significant reason for this is that this year I personally undertook the task of translating it into the Venerable Tibetan language. Actually, the vast and extensive Tibetan Buddhist canon is truly immense, containing so many sacred texts that perhaps it doesn't truly lack this particular one. However, I did diligently search throughout the entire canon and couldn't find a Tibetan version of the Ksitigarbha Sutra. In Chinese Buddhism, the 10-Wheel Sutra of Ksitigarbha, as well as the Sutra of the Divination of Good and Evil Karmic Retribution. These three significant Ksitigarbha Sutras are indeed very famous. However, in Tibetan, only the 10-Wheel Sutra of Ksitigarbha currently exists. Another important aspect is that I actually think Shikshananda should have translated it more than 1,300 years ago. This historical account dates back to the Tang dynasty. However, even up to this present moment, there is still no complete Tibetan version of the Ksitigarbha Sutra available. I originally planned to commence this translation at the end of 2019 and work to finish translating it within a dedicated period of 2 full years. That was indeed the vow I made at the time. Now, when I actually look at my detailed diary, that's certainly what I wrote back then. But later, because of the devastating pandemic, and also because I couldn't go out anymore, plus so many various other challenging reasons, I actually had quite plenty of time every day during that period without interruptions. At that time, I wasn't giving any teachings or lectures either. We were also on holiday then. I think I started translating around January or February of that year. As for my Tibetan translation of the Ksitigarbha Sutra, it was completed in just a little over a 2-month period. I translated a little bit every day. Looking back now, it actually seems like quite a lot indeed. But at the time, I finished the translation almost without realizing it. So this time, it's also for the purpose of proofreading. Here we have many people who understand both Tibetan and Chinese. I'll read through it once on my side. If there are any obvious typos below, or if there are particular places where the Tibetan doesn't quite match with Chinese accurately, please let me know. The goal is to carefully proofread them thoroughly. This time, as we discuss the Ksitigarbha Sutra, in the past, for example, some commentators, after carefully composing a treatise, it was considered best to formally present it to the public. They would first thoroughly explain it to all the people present at the very beginning. This was a tradition in Tibetan. For example, when the esteemed Mifam Rinpoche wrote his work, the commentary on the ornament of the middle way after he had finished writing it. I believe there were indeed 8 dedicated disciples, weren't there? Is there any further information in the later texts about it? He then proceeded to explain it thoroughly to these 8 attentive disciples, didn't he? Is that understanding entirely correct? They studied the commentary on the ornament of the middle way. Could you please tell me who the individuals are who are currently enrolled in the middle way class this year? Is this specifically mentioned in the biographies or not at all? Now you actually start asking Grandpa Internet once again. Teacher Baidu, right? Is there anything about this later on anywhere? It seems there isn't anything, right? There's simply nothing about it in the later texts, is there? Is there actually any reliable written record of that? I really don't remember the exact textual specifics very clearly right now. There is. Generally speaking, quite often immediately after a treatise is just recently completed. It should be clearly explained once initially to the first group of followers. Of course, the translation might not have been into the Chinese language. I usually just translate it into Chinese and then explain it to you. If it were to be translated into Tibetan, it would be better to do the proofreading. If I explained it once in Tibetan, I haven't actually taught in Tibetan for a very long time now, and perhaps I might not even be able to teach it properly. A few years ago, I meticulously translated the Contemplation Sutra, and at that particular time, a few Khenpos kept bringing me various things, like carpets and all sorts of things like that, hoping I would give a teaching to the monastic community. I accepted the carpets and katas and all those things, but I didn't actually give the teaching myself, kind of really bad, wouldn't you say, huh? They were probably quite unhappy about it. And in the end, I didn't manage to give the teaching. So now, when it comes to using Tibetan, especially if there are a lot of monastics present, I haven't taught in a very long time. So I also haven't planned to teach the Ksitigarbha Sutra in Tibetan. But this time, at least here, let's just create a meaningful karmic connection in this world. Anyway, even though you might not understand, I'll still recite it once for everyone. No one is really gathering together either nowadays. That's simply how it is with Tibetan. That's obviously one of the primary reasons involved. But what's the most important actual reason? The Ksitigarbha Sutra indeed truly has remarkable, immense merit. In the past, our precious Guru also constantly spoke about the merits of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Every year at Larungar, we would, on the day commemorating Shakyamuni Buddha's turning of the Dharma wheel, which is also called the Samantabhadra Cloud Offering Dharma Assembly, and also known as the Ksitigarbha Dharma Assembly. During this Dharma assembly, the primary practice is reciting the sacred name and the venerable long mantra of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, as well as the sacred mantras from the 10-wheel sutra of Ksitigarbha. This is indeed taken very seriously. The Ksitigarbha Dharma practice is undeniably important in its widespread propagation throughout Han regions. I would like to recite it once for everyone this time, and if we can study it together here very carefully, then in the future many people here today should have the opportunity to truly spread and share the authentic Dharma. When that opportunity arises, perhaps you will recall that during your studies you receive this kind of Dharma which is truly unique. So this kind of karmic connection, even though in Tibetan we do not have the transmission of the Ksitigarbha Sutra, but the uncommon blessings of the Ksitigarbha Dharma practice do exist, because His Holiness, the wish-fulfilling jewel, I personally believe that he had a particularly special karmic connection with Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. There was a unique blessing in his spiritual lineage. So, in the very early days, whenever Larungar meticulously held a Ksitigarbha Dharma assembly, a significant and revered spiritual gathering, we would wholeheartedly recite with 100-fold profound faith and unwavering devotion the sacred name of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva many times over the course of 8 continuous days. At that particular time, our unwavering faith was indeed very strong. With such intense and profound faith, we devoutly recited the sacred name of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. In this significant way, the abundant blessings and the powerful transmission of this profound Dharma practice should truly and undeniably exist. I also sincerely hope that everyone here in the future, in different places, especially in major cities where many people have great faith in the Ksitigarbha Dharma practice, will continue to uphold and spread this profound teaching. This is also a truly very good opportunity. When I was translating at that time, every single day I would always think, in the future, I should indeed encourage everyone to recite the Ksitigarbha Sutra. I should encourage everyone to study the Ksitigarbha Dharma practice. Speaking in terms of the whole world, if more devout people create beautiful images of Ksitigarbha and print many more copies of the Ksitigarbha Sutra, and if everyone frequently recites together the name and mantras of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, indeed it should bring truly great and tremendous benefit to the entire world without a doubt. For each individual, it will be of great help both in this life and in future lives. At that time, I often thought this way as well. So, as for my second reason, mainly, whether it's the transmission of this Dharma practice or the blessings of the Ksitigarbha Dharma practice, they have been passed down for generations and spread throughout the 10 directions. There is a unique kind of auspicious connection, I suppose, including for myself personally. The biography of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva in the lives of the 8 great bodhisattvas back in 1986, when we often went out together with His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche himself, whenever we arrived at some very sacred ancient mountains nearby, because during the Cultural Revolution, many sacred mountains had become deeply polluted or severely tainted with negative energy. His Holiness would perform purification rituals for the sacred mountains, conducting profound and powerful wrathful Vajra exorcism rituals, and then devoutly recite the praise to Ksitigarbha, which is a deeply revered and ancient scripture, as well as Mifam Rinpoche's magnificent and inspiring hymn, eloquently extolling the majestic and boundless earth, and then reverently chant some sacred and venerable names. Speaking personally in terms of the transmission of this Dharma practice, there must be some unique auspicious connections. This is the second reason why I am giving teachings on the Ksitigarbha Sutra this time. It is the second of my reasons. The fundamental third reason, as everyone knows nowadays, especially throughout this difficult year, the remarkable year of Gengzi, has truly been quite a catastrophic year of severe disasters for the whole world. Everyone knows about the current pandemic, which now has already caused the devastating deaths of over 500,000 vulnerable people worldwide this year. For the profoundly affected, deeply troubled entire world, even now in various places like India and still the United States, the number of new cases increases by tens of thousands every day, and it still cannot be brought under control. So this is also a truly very frightening phenomenon. There are also various disasters indeed involving earth, water, fire and wind, you see. Just as I mentioned the other day, especially things like the plague are particularly worrisome. Looking back through history, it has tragically claimed far more human lives than the current global pandemic. In the past, in Europe, tens of millions of precious lives were tragically lost in a very short period of time. Not long ago, there were also some outbreaks in parts of Inner Mongolia, but it is said that they were later brought under control. But as for the specifics, it's hard to say what will happen in the future. If things get even more serious, recently as well, I saw on the CCTV news that yesterday's news report indicated that a significant number of people, specifically 33.85 million individuals, were affected. They have been affected by disasters, with over 100 people dead and so on. Just talking about China alone, based on the extensive and publicly available information gleaned from various news sources and media reports, it genuinely seems that a great many people are truly and deeply pitiful. When these natural disasters occur, many people find it very hard to cope, no matter from which challenging and increasingly complex aspect, including severe ongoing economic losses, particularly when the news says it's close to 70 billion RMB. This is also a huge loss, a truly devastating and major global disaster. Besides this, there may be many more serious emerging underlying issues, including now between numerous various countries, for example, between the US and China, particularly between China and India, as well as Japan, Europe. The relationships between many countries are also quite remarkably very increasingly complex and tense these days. this situation is becoming increasingly severe. At times like this, whether it's natural or man-made disasters, as is often widely and consistently mentioned in sacred Buddhist scriptures, particularly in texts about disease, famine, and war, what we call war, disaster, and famine. These all tend to occur extremely and naturally easily. At such times, the blessings of sentient beings are indeed, when they reach a certain point, the blessings of sentient beings are still somewhat related to this. Perhaps the negative karma created by sentient beings is quite frightening. Now, relying on science and technology now, whether it's the act of killing or many other actions that profoundly harm and diminish life, these occurrences are distinctly different from what has been observed in the past. So sometimes people have no other choice but to experience the consequences of retribution in this very life. But no matter what the circumstances, I personally think that recently all of us should come together, on the one hand, to pray to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, and on the other hand, to promote the Ksitigarbha Dharma teachings. As for Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, it can be truly said that in terms of fully fulfilling the great wishes of all sentient beings, he possesses powers surpassing those of any other bodhisattva. In the 10-wheel sutra of Ksitigarbha, it is mentioned Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, Manjushra Bodhisattva, Maitreya Bodhisattva, and Samantabhadra Bodhisattva before them, even if one prays, makes offerings, takes refuge, and pays homage for 100 kalpas. The merit from that is not as extraordinary as the merit gained in a short period of time by respectfully paying sincere homage to the revered Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Especially when it comes to truly fulfilling the heartfelt wishes of all sentient beings, he is indeed a truly precious wish-fulfilling jewel. Some call the Guru a truly precious wish-fulfilling jewel, and some say constantly traveling wish-fulfilling jewel. Usually you often say Rura quite frequently, but some people say traveling wish-fulfilling jewel. Bodhisattva Ksitigarbha truly is an incredibly powerful and compassionate wish-fulfilling jewel who always graciously satisfies the heartfelt, sincere wishes of deeply devoted sentient beings. So I think it's absolutely necessary for all of us recently, for everyone to earnestly pray together like this entire blessed year. Although the total number of people currently attending this particular teaching session is relatively small compared to similar classes in history, that doesn't necessarily mean that having fewer people is completely ineffective. I think many of us here have received the blessings of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. We should use sincere faith to pray and supplicate to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in this world do possess a certain power and might. Unless the collective karma of sentient beings truly manifests, if the collective karma indeed really arises, there will be some very significant difficulties. But some things can be reversed, and some karmas can be transformed. I firmly believe that when it is absolutely necessary, every day we should actively strive to make a difference. Even though we may not have much time, we can at least, the Ksitigarbha Dharma assembly may not be able to take place this year. So during our daily classes, we can also recite the name of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva a few times. Everyone should always keep in mind the earnest wish that all the various unpleasant disasters truly happening in the world currently today will, within a very short period of time, certainly before this upcoming winter season, definitely be eliminated completely and entirely. Just as people are currently saying now, if people must die, let the mortality rate be as low as possible, and let the number of people affected by disasters be minimized as much as possible. To achieve this goal, everyone should sincerely pray to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva with faith. Usually when we pray to ghosts, spirits, or the earth deities of this world, they, whether intentionally or unintentionally, will grant us abundant blessings, profound merit, and inner spiritual strength and resilience. All the more so with Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. For such a long time it is said that, until hell is empty, I vow not to become a Buddha. With such a vow, there's even less to be said. So what we should focus on this time is mainly to discuss, not just theoretically, but truly by quoting a lot of extensive scriptural or compelling logical evidence indeed. Some of our Dharma teachers often like to show off their exceptional wisdom, and for 4 or 5 hours they can speak continuously without looking at any books. But actually, if we want to show off in front of the monastic community, if you just read a few more books, sometimes you might end up like that too. When we go out to give talks at schools, we usually speak without a script, just wanting to share a bit with them. But maybe this has some value, since many wise people say, wow, our Khenpo and Khenmo are really amazing. They really, truly don't even look at a single word, and they just go on and on talking. Just kidding, going on and on isn't the point. I too, if I were to present a lot of scriptural teachings in front of everyone, if I were to display a lot of scriptural knowledge, there actually isn't much in the Ksitigarbha Sutra that can be used as scriptural theory. So this time the focus is mainly on practical aspects. We ourselves are also in the midst of such disasters. It's truly hard to say whether we'll even still be in this world next year. Whether it's our dearest friends and beloved family or all sentient beings, in this world that is so full of various disasters, we sincerely hope they can have good health and lasting peace, find happiness and fulfillment. Because right now maybe we're in a mountain valley, many people aren't particularly aware of things. No matter in which aspect, maybe they're not very clear about it. But in the real big cities across the globe, in terms of the actual lives that people are now experiencing in many different countries, it's completely and fundamentally different from before. In just this short year, your life has undergone earth-shaking changes. In the past, it was like living as a celestial being, but now life has turned into something like hell. Actually, sometimes the suffering we experience in samsara, it's very easy for it to quite often manifest in people's bodies and minds indeed. Impermanence is just impermanence in a very short time. What you used to enjoy so much, suddenly some things are gone in an instant. Some things may not be completely gone, but even your current job, for example, like not being able to keep your business running or being unable to pay your mortgage or car loan, many people can't keep up. At times like this, it seems like suicide is the only way out, but you can't quite bring yourself to do it. If you don't, everyone around you in this world is in the same situation. At times like this, you pray to the heavens and the earth, but no matter where you go, it seems like there's no way out. So sometimes when you truly witness the suffering of sentient beings firsthand, it truly burns quite intensely deep within you. So I think every single one of us, indeed, should come together to pray to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva.
Shanzhub sanwa sanwa jimbo sayi nyambo la shom salon chodur gyabsum cheo. Shanzhub sanwa sanwa jimbo sayi nyambo la shom salon chodur gyabsum cheo. Shanzhub sanwa sanwa jimbo sayi nyambo la shom salon chodur gyabsum cheo. Shanzhu sanhua sanhua chenpo sayi nyambo la sheng zanlong chodo gyasum. Shanzhu sanhua sanhua chenpo sayi nyambo la sheng zanlong chodo gyasum. Sanhua sanhua chenpo sayi nyambo la sheng zanlong chodo gyasum. Shanzhu sanhua sanhua chenpo sayi nyambo la sheng zanlong chodo gyasum. Shanzhu sanhua sanhua chenpo sayi nyambo la sheng zanlong chodo gyasum. Shanzhu sanhua sanhua chenpo sayi nyambo la sheng zanlong chodo gyasum. Shanzhu sanhua sanhua chenpo sayi nyambo la sheng zanlong chodo gyasum. Shanzhu sanhua sanhua chenpo sayi nyambo la sheng zanlong chodo gyasum o sayi nyambo juji tukye dom zabar monom jenze nibi lame ishi jamzhi jenja tenja konur dongson gyur sho.
All right, let's continue our detailed discussion and thorough exploration of the significant and profound Ksitigarbha Sutra, a revered Buddhist scripture that offers immense wisdom and spiritual guidance. There are quite a few commentaries on the Ksitigarbha Sutra. Today, I specifically asked the local library to kindly provide me with some of them. We have more than 10 books here, but I'm quite worried that when the time comes, I see that the way you've numbered things is quite good. I have quite a lot of books myself. I'm afraid they might potentially get mixed in with others eventually later on. So I am a little bit concerned about this, so I just put them all together, you see. But I don't really have that much time to read them all. Overall, our library is pretty good, actually. Sometimes you all also find yourselves in situations where you, of course, there are special cases, so it's not necessarily not lending them, whether to lend them out or not to lend them out outside, but you still absolutely have to lend them out, right? You lend them to literally anyone. Isn't that truly so? I also genuinely think it's not really the case. If you go there to simply read, it should be perfectly fine. Back when we were still studying, if we had a library just like this, we would have been truly very happy indeed. Swimming every day in the ocean of scriptures and treatises, carefree and content, it would have been wonderful. But now there are so many things to do. And reading too much excessively isn't good for the eyes either, plus there might be some significant difficulties as well. But for a library like this, we are especially grateful to all the staff who have dedicated themselves. In the future, there may still be some things. Just the day before yesterday, I went there. Right now, the English version of the Tripitaka and some other foreign language materials are a bit lacking in this area. If someone generously donates them in the future, we can certainly accept them as well. Whether it's Japanese or English, or if we purchase them ourselves, that's also possible. About this, I just forgot to mention the other day that we really should look into this important matter. As for our Tibetan language collection here, overall, it should be very good. In just a short period of time, basically, almost all of the rooms, except for a very few, are already completely full. In the near future, if there are some more truly precious books, we can certainly accept them. I'm also planning to set up a library in my hometown. Last year, many Dharma friends also contributed some books, but in the meantime, it was also abandoned for a while. However, in the foreseeable future, we can also graciously accept generous donations for this important initiative. No matter what kind of books they are, as long as they are completely brand new, in pristine condition, and have truly excellent high-quality content. Even worldly books are acceptable. And books in many different languages are also very much welcome. At that particular time, you can certainly send them to Larungar here, or you can send them to the school in my hometown. Either option is perfectly fine. I also sincerely hope that within my lifetime, I can successfully build several libraries, as many as humanly possible. In the past, when I had the opportunity to travel to the United Kingdom and numerous other fascinating places, I thought to myself how wonderful it would be if Larung had such libraries. Because all the monastics here are people who seek knowledge. For those who are pursuing learning, the treasure of knowledge is extremely important. Especially at places like Harvard University, there are an especially large number of libraries, and their libraries keep their lights on both day and night. Even late at night, around 2 or 3 in the morning, there are still a lot of people there. It's always like that. I don't know why they do this, but it's always been that way. So at that time, I was extremely envious. But later, with the blessings of the 3 jewels and many favorable conditions, although the process was rather exhausting to be honest, nothing ever goes completely smoothly when doing anything. But overall, despite some initial challenges, when we look back, it turned out quite well. So those who are doing the volunteer work should absolutely continue to work diligently hard. On that particular day, Khenpo also went along, and he was indeed quite happy and content too. I think sometimes when it comes to the monastic community and things that are truly meaningful for the dedicated pursuit of profound wisdom, the monastics also diligently do some volunteer work, and this particular aspect is indeed very important. Everyone's motivation should always be kept very pure and unblemished, and for this I am profoundly and sincerely grateful. Although I have just now taken a significant number of books, I truly haven't had the opportunity or the time at all. So basically I haven't read them. If I have time, I will read them. But it might be a little bit quite difficult after all. Let's see how things go. There are always many things. For example, in the Han region, there were Venerable Master Xuan Hua and Jing Kong, as well as many others, like Elder Monk Meng Chan. When I was translating Tibetan the other day, I also read some truly profound books by the great masters of the past. Actually, regarding the Sutra of Ksitigarbha, perhaps I should also mention something quite important and meaningful here. Some people have serious doubts about whether this is truly an apocryphal sutra. Some modern intellectuals have also raised such challenging questions in the past. If it were indeed an apocryphal sutra, I certainly wouldn't have needed to translate it into classical Tibetan. If there are doubts, there's no need to do it. Previously, on the one hand, I carefully and completely read through the entire sutra several times over and over again. And at the very same time, I also carefully read some profound evaluations by the truly great masters of the past. This includes revered Master Yingguang, esteemed Master Wuyi, as well as the highly respected Master Lianqi and Master Hongyi, these truly great and influential masters of the past. They all highly and unanimously recognized it. I also looked into the reasons why some people claim it is an apocryphal sutra. In actual fact, they have no real substantial reason to support their claims. One reason given is that it is actually not found in the Shikshananda's catalogue of his translated sutras. However, in Shikshananda's authoritative master translator's comprehensive catalogue, there are also other sutras that are not listed. This point cannot be taken as proof. Moreover, if we look at it from a historical perspective at that time, it should be said that Shikshananda and Empress Wu Zetian were particularly involved. Because Wu Zetian, one could truly say, was a powerful Dharma protector king in China. She was indeed someone with very great and profound faith in Buddhism. She invited the translation of the 80-volume Avatamsaka Sutra in Luoyang. As everyone knows, the 60-volume Avatamsaka and other versions were not particularly complete at that particular time. Later, she graciously invited Shikshananda. Shikshananda, a revered scholar, established a dedicated translation bureau in the ancient city of Luoyang to meticulously translate the profound Avatamsaka Sutra. Later, it seems that due to his elderly mother's advanced age, he eventually returned to his homeland in Xinjiang. When he eventually came back to the capital again, Wu Zetian was unfortunately no longer firmly on the throne. Historically, there were indeed some treacherous officials who were consistently particularly disrespectful to Shikshananda, so it's very likely that if he did translations in his declining later years, they might not necessarily be explicitly and fully included in the catalogue. For example, in the works of Mipham Rinpoche, there are many that are not included in the catalogue. Some were discovered later as well. There are also some that are not listed in his works catalogue. Similarly, in the catalogue of works by Rongzom Pandita from Tibetan area, a considerable portion is also missing. These are all great masters of modern times. For example, the Tertun master Dechen Lingpa from Domang Monastery in the past, there are works of his that are not included in his catalogue either. Later, many of his Dharma treasures were found in quite different places. So, in less than 100 years, well, almost 100 years, some works by these great masters from around 100 years ago, if they are not included in the catalogue, then for Shikshananda from over 1,300 years ago, if something was not in the catalogue at that time, it doesn't necessarily mean it didn't exist. That's one aspect. Some people also wonder whether it actually exists in the Sanskrit texts. In fact, it should exist in the Sanskrit texts. Because even if it exists in the Sanskrit texts, it doesn't necessarily mean we can find all of them today. Among all the Buddhist sutra translations throughout history, some have been found in Sanskrit, while others cannot be found in Sanskrit. Even those sacred texts that are now widely recognized as authentic and truly genuine scriptures, some of them also cannot be found in Sanskrit. But if we talk about the only really good evidence, later in the Danwang manuscripts, the Ksitigarbha Sutra was found in the Tangut script. At that time, there were also manuscripts in Tangut, Syriac, and Tibetan, as well as Mongolian and many other diverse languages. Therefore, many prominent historians and archaeologists now firmly believe that if a significant book is indeed found in Dunhuang, then it should be considered very reliable in history. This includes some Japanese archaeologists who also hold this view. So, among the Tangut manuscripts, incomplete versions of the Ksitigarbha Sutra have always existed. This significant point is widely recognized by many respected historians. Also, regarding the overall distinctive writing style of the Ksitigarbha Sutra, it is important to consider that I also wondered at the time whether it was really the same as Shikshananda's writing style. This year, I specifically examined all the wording in the Avatamsaka Sutra in 80 volumes. Because when an author or a particular translator writes something, they have a unique way of using certain terms. This, for those who do translation, is immediately obvious. So this year, I spent time comparing names of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the Avatamsaka Sutra, the names of Pure Lands, and the ways they are referred to, with the ways of addressing and the writing style in the Ksitigarbha Sutra. and compared them one by one. During this process of comparison, they turned out to be extremely, extremely similar. In fact, essentially identical in every significant aspect. So personally, I have absolutely no doubts regarding their profound congruence. And consequently, I made the decision to translate this important work into the Tibetan language. Otherwise, translating it into Tibetan would take a very long time. Moreover, translating a scripture that is controversial, I genuinely feel that for future generations it truly wouldn't really have much value, not much significance at all. That's just how I personally see it. So why do some people say this? Actually, it's not just the Ksitigarbha Sutra. It includes many truly authentic scriptures as well. When we talked about the Shurangama Sutra the other day, we also mentioned some of this. Nowadays, people in the world think of themselves as scholars, or they only understand certain specific styles of particular religious scriptures. If something doesn't fit their preferred style, or even if subjectively they feel a bit uncomfortable with it, they immediately decide, this is a fake scripture, this is a false treatise. They say it's fake. And there are all sorts of claims like this. Once such talk starts, it spreads from 1 to 10, from 10 to 100. In the end, these kinds of discussions become widespread in society. Actually, these people are truly pitiable. They are creating heavy negative karma because some people lack wisdom and discernment. For people like us, you could say that throughout our lives in this field, whether it's research, translation, study, or listening and contemplation, we have a certain amount of experience, so it's not easy to fool us. It's like someone who is especially skilled and highly proficient in complex business. It's probably not an easy task for others to successfully deceive them completely either. So generally, we are also quite clear indeed about which are apocryphal scriptures and which are not. But as for some other people, they just follow what others say. Especially some university professors, when they start to slander with all kinds of seemingly plausible or for similar sounding reasons, then we sentient beings who are living in this current degenerate age, an era marked by decline and spiritual decay, without possessing a truly correct and profound view of reality, are compelled to rely solely on our inferior and limited wisdom, and just go along with them, echoing their very words. As a direct result, both oneself and others may indeed fall into an increasingly terrifying abyss. We must be extremely cautious about this. And when necessary, it is also worth clarifying things. Where clarification is needed, we should clarify. Just like when discussing the Shurangama Sutra, it was also mentioned that some individual scholars, because of their distinctive viewpoints, have left enduring impressions throughout the entirety of history and causing everyone to have doubts, this kind of phenomenon. So regarding these matters, as Buddhists, we can't just think, we need to practice patience. If you are truly practicing patience, it should be with your Vajra friends, not just practicing patience in other areas. Then, when others truly slander you or indeed make unreasonable trouble, when they do these things, you become especially patient, saying nothing at all, thinking there's no need to get involved in these matters. In fact, this is actually a sign of being particularly timid, or perhaps a bit foolish on your part. Otherwise, as devoted Buddhists, for the profound sake of upholding the true and sacred Dharma, for diligently protecting the Dharma center, and for carefully safeguarding the vital interests of the Sangha, we should say what needs to be said and do what needs to be done. Otherwise, in our world today, if people are especially weak at times, many people simply won't take you seriously. This applies to both monastics and lay people alike. And it's the same when dealing with worldly matters in the future. If you appear especially soft, gentle, and utterly powerless, your spoken words won't be very effective or impactful either, regardless of their content. And when it comes to doing things, you'll seem as if you're barely hanging on. For people exactly like this in society, the harsh world will often bully and consistently look down on you without mercy. So, as we all live in this complex world, there's really no need for us to go on being especially fragile or timid. When it's time to speak or act, we should be strong and resolute and have strong perseverance and unwavering willpower. Otherwise, in this challenging world, sometimes you might unfortunately be trampled on by others. That's a real possibility. So here I want to mention briefly the Ksitigarbha Sutra is especially powerful in terms of its blessings. It was translated by the Venerable Master Shiksananda and is an exceptionally good and profound scripture. If you hold a valid residence permit specifically intended for practitioners, you are warmly welcome to participate in these classes. Now, concerning our esteemed Dharma friends who are currently attending these sessions, I have recently observed with much appreciation that a significant number of individuals are demonstrating considerable diligence. Some come earlier, some come later, some even attend during the day as well. Sometimes it seems like we don't have any Dharma teachings at all, and sometimes there are quite a lot. But in this regard, everyone must be diligent. This is a rare opportunity, and indeed, having a sense of its rarity is important. I've seen that some people's attitude toward listening to the Dharma is quite good. Most people are doing exceptionally well indeed. But for a few individuals, perhaps their motivation for listening to the Dharma is strong when they're in a good mood and they listen attentively. But when they're not in a good mood the next day, they're not so willing to listen. This kind of habitual tendency is a bit strong. So it's best to sincerely repent for this yourself. You should really study diligently and consistently. This is just a very brief advertisement that has been strategically inserted in the middle. Generally speaking, advertisements absolutely shouldn't last for an excessively long period of time, should they? There will most certainly be appropriate advertising fees collected later on. Next, let's talk the Sutra of the Original Vows of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Everyone knows Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva has many names. Some sacred sutras and profound treatises say that his solemn vow to liberate and truly benefit all sentient beings is extremely firm and unwavering, much like the earth itself. Some interpret earth as the basis for all virtues, and treasury as containing the immeasurable virtues of both worldly and transcendental realms. That is precisely why he is called Ksitigarbha, which means earth treasury. Some also say he can fulfill all the wishes of sentient beings, like a wish-fulfilling treasure, and so he is called Ksitigarbha. In any case, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva among the so-called 8 great bodhisattvas. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's vows are found in the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's Original Vows Sutra. His vows will also be discussed below. Only when all sentient beings are liberated will I attain Buddhahood. If the hells are not empty, I vow not to become a Buddha. This phrase appears in the Chinese Yanku food offering ritual. But this sentence is not the original text of the Ksitigarbha Sutra. This conveys the profound meaning of the Ksitigarbha Sutra, an ancient Buddhist scripture, which subsequently became an integral part of the Yanku food offering ritual, a significant and revered practice. So, what exactly are the vows of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva? If the hells are not empty, I vow not to become a Buddha. You could put it this way. Or as I just mentioned, the 10-wheel sutra of Ksitigarbha also talks about Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's vows. The power of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's vows is that sentient beings can attain liberation, especially for us now, with all kinds of disasters like wars and famines. How does the 10-wheel sutra of Ksitigarbha describe this? It says, due to the evil karma accumulated by sentient beings, they suffer from weapons, disease, and famine wherever they are, but all can be liberated. The evil karma accumulated by sentient beings in past lives, created by greed, anger, and ignorance in all their various forms. For example, when the negative karma of killing and so on ripens, devastating wars and armed conflicts frequently break out in the world, between nations and between individuals. Conflicts arise where you kill me and I kill you. There are also diseases. Nowadays, all kinds of illnesses are appearing in the world. Sometimes it's avian flu, sometimes it's swine flu, and a wide variety of other debilitating diseases. Because of the widespread prevalence of these devastating diseases and the destructive nature of wars, severe famine may also tragically occur as a direct consequence. Although every country claims that their economy is doing very well right now, and that there are no problems, but in reality, no one really knows for sure. In many respects, if we look to the future as time goes on, there are still quite a few concerns in this world. Therefore, by truly relying upon the immense power of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's profound vows, all these destructive weapons, devastating famines, and various other calamitous disasters can indeed be completely overcome and fully liberated from. That's one significant aspect of it. There's another aspect. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva also said this. This is also stated in the 10-wheel sutra of Ksitigarbha. Sentient beings in the 5 realms are beset by all kinds of suffering. The bodies of sentient beings in the 5 destinies are tormented by various kinds of pain and suffering. But if they take refuge in and pay homage to Ksitigarbha, all their suffering will be eliminated. If we wholeheartedly show respect, take refuge, and recite the name of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, and frequently make offerings to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, then, as mentioned earlier, all those things, whether it is the suffering inflicted upon the bodies of the 5 destinies, or the natural and man-made disasters brought about by the elements of earth, water, fire, and wind in the world, all of these can be completely eliminated. Therefore, in this present age, especially for those individuals who are devout Mahayana Buddhists, it is indeed absolutely necessary to rely upon the profound Ksitigarbha practice to effectively dispel the immense suffering of all sentient beings. In actual fact, each and every single sentient being truly wants to attain happiness and does not wish to experience suffering. This is also mentioned in the 10-Wheel Sutra of Ksitigarbha. It speaks of significantly increasing human lifespan and overall improving physical health and well-being, increasing wealth, expanding knowledge, and enhancing discipline, as well as increasing wisdom, compassion, and so on. When you have the opportunity, take a look at the 10-Wheel Sutra of Ksitigarbha. I have read it before, and there are many, many things in it. The worldly blessings we enjoy, including so-called fame and material gain, as well as the health and peace that people in the world long for, and so on. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is a particularly powerful bodhisattva who bestows blessings, whether it is transcendental matters or aspects of merit, such as expanding knowledge or upholding discipline, cultivating compassion or the 4 immeasurables. All these kinds of merits within our own mind stream will definitely increase significantly and continuously through the divine and compassionate blessings of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. This is the sacred and profound aspiration made by Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. The primary and most significant content detailed within these sacred scriptures, which are revered texts, can be comprehensively discovered and explored right here. This translator hailed specifically from Khotan, a historically significant Buddhist kingdom located on the ancient Silk Road. Is that correct? Khotan should be located in present-day Xinjiang, now officially called Khotan. It's situated in that particular area. At that specific time, during the Tang dynasty, it was a completely separate kingdom. It seems that Xuanzang's famous Great Tang records on the western regions also explicitly mentions it. It's also directly mentioned in the ancient record of Faxian. When he eventually arrived in Xinjiang, he was indeed in that exact place at the time. It seems that in the original record of Faxian, it precisely says that there were truly tens of thousands of devout, religious monastics living there continuously. They all actively practiced Mahayana Buddhism rather extensively, and every individual household built stupas and made frequent offerings to monks. It was extremely, incredibly prosperous. But later, due to changes in history, now perhaps many people there no longer truly have strong religious beliefs. Some significant areas have also been completely taken over by other religions. In the past, places like Xinjiang and its surroundings were also centers where Mahayana Buddhism flourished greatly. When we watch some documentaries, including those about Tang Xuanzang, for example, and in various documentaries about the esteemed monk Faxian, we can clearly see that it was still a place where the Buddhist Dharma was indeed very prosperous and flourishing. Here he is referred to as a Tripitaka master, a Shramana. Shramana also means a monastic, someone who has left home. Shikshananda reportedly lived from 652 to 710 CE precisely. He was a remarkably great translator of that important era. He ultimately lived to the advanced age of 59 years total. Then he manifested parinirvana, passing away without any illness. The particular place where he originally did his translations was called the renowned Great Vaipulya Monastery. It seems that Venerable Elder Monk Mangchan specifically said it was also called Jiangji Temple historically. I've heard that the ancient Jiangji Temple does indeed exist. It was the very place where he diligently did his important translations in the past. We are not entirely sure what its current state is like now exactly. Furthermore, we don't really know all the specific details either. At that particular time, Shikshananda was, as I had mentioned earlier, a truly great and highly respected translator, deeply valued by the king. But unfortunately, before he even reached 60, he had already fully manifested complete parinirvana ultimately. Generally, many renowned great masters in traditional Buddhist history, some of them actually lived a bit significantly longer periods. Some passed away before reaching 60, which is quite considerably relatively short comparatively. From our current perspective, considering his advanced age, generally speaking, most people live to be around 70 or even 80 years old. However, after reaching the age of 80, there are definitely some significant and undeniable difficulties and challenges that commonly arise. Wouldn't you agree? Usually, living to 70 is already considered pretty good. That's what I often think myself. If one can live to 70, that's already very good. But it's hard to say. There's so much impermanence in this world. Impermanence is certainly real. Sometimes when you directly look at it, you can't see it, but it's actually rather very frightening. No one truly knows how long each person's life will last. All of us sitting here today, we might think, I'm definitely going to live for a long time. But in reality, how many days we can actually stay in this world, it's really hard to say. So I also truly hope that we should always often be well prepared in all important aspects carefully, because impermanence, whether it's your physical body or your accumulated material wealth, you should also think about these things. Whether it's the house you live in, you should consider these important aspects as well. When impermanence truly does occur, everyone shouldn't feel any regret, remorse, or despair at all. As Buddhists, as practitioners, we shouldn't really have those feelings, nor should we ever allow them to take hold. If you prepare yourself well in advance, then when impermanence truly arrives, everyone will be able to face it easily and without much difficulty. I think even the Venerable Shikshananda's time in this earthly world wasn't very long at all. He manifested parinirvana, a state of ultimate liberation, at the relatively young age of 59 years. Now, regarding the profound and significant Ksitigarbha Sutra, I just remembered there's another reason. Since we're talking about the Ksitigarbha Sutra today, according to the traditional lunar calendar, today is indeed Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's significant festival. Normally, we do not have any sessions scheduled on Saturdays, except for special occasions. We don't give talks, but I think there's a special connection this year as well. Today is the 21st day of the 5th lunar month, a significant date in lunar calendar, which is considered Ksitigarbha's festival. On Ksitigarbha's festival, any virtuous deeds performed today will multiply many times over. They will increase by countless multiples. So today we are also relying on this auspicious connection. That's why I'm starting to teach you all now. This reason was actually mentioned earlier, but I'm just adding a little bit more detail here. Should I continue or not? All right, I think this is a good place to stop. It shouldn't be too long, otherwise everyone will get bored. Why you might sometimes think I'm too overly long-winded and develop wrong views, perhaps. If I keep it brief instead, everyone will be definitely happier to listen carefully. And being happy is also indeed very meritorious. It's a truly great merit, right? Just kidding. For things that should be explained, it's better to spend more time on them. However, today, in this present moment, regarding the profoundly significant Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's original Vows Sutra, which was meticulously translated by the esteemed Tripitaka master Shiksananda, what else should I possibly talk about? Maybe just a little more. Still not completely satisfied, are you, honestly? Really? Wow, you're incredibly impressive. Your sincere enthusiasm for seeking the sacred Dharma is quite deeply admirable. All right then, I'll recite a little bit more now, okay? The first chapter is called The Divine Powers in the Trāyastriṃśa Heaven. Thus have I heard. At one time, we've talked about this before as well. Many commentaries discuss this in great detail. I think there's no need for me to explain it again. The revered Buddha taught the sacred Dharma to his beloved mother in the celestial Trāyastriṃśa Heaven. Just 7 days after the Buddha was born, his mother, Queen Maya, manifested parinirvana, passing away peacefully. She was then reborn in the heaven of the 33, the Trāyastriṃśa Heaven. So, the Ksitigarbha Sutra was not expounded in the human world. It was taught in the Trāyastriṃśa Heaven, where there were many celestial beings present. Even ordinary human arhats were rarely present there. The entire audience was exclusively made up of celestial beings and divine spirits. Because for us humans, without any supernatural powers, how could one possibly hope to reach the heaven of the 33? It would indeed be quite difficult, a truly challenging endeavor. The Buddha was, in fact, residing in the heaven of the 33. On September 22nd, after teaching the Dharma to his mother, the Buddha returned to the human world. It should be recorded in the Tripitaka, where the Buddha gave his teachings should be mentioned, but I haven't seen it myself. I haven't found it in the Tibetan texts either. So as for the Ksitigarbha Sutra, at that particular time, the Buddha went to the heaven of the 33, specifically, in order to fully repay his beloved mother's kindness. He diligently taught the profound Dharma to her there. At that moment, from the countless worlds in the 10 directions, innumerable, unspeakable Buddhas, as well as many great bodhisattva mahasattvas, all came and gathered there. Because when the Buddha teaches the Dharma there, then certainly in all the worlds of the 10 directions, innumerable, unspeakable, is something very difficult to describe in words. From any perspective, it is truly indescribable. In some Buddhist scriptures, the phrase innumerable, unspeakable appears 3 times as well. In some, it's just innumerable, unspeakable. There are so many Buddhas that cannot be described in words. Buddhas coming from the 10 directions, as well as bodhisattva mahasattvas and great bodhisattvas from the 10 directions, all gathered in the heaven of the 33. For example, when a great tulku in our world holds an empowerment ceremony, people from all over will come to attend. Whenever a revered master transmits a profound teaching, there are also many devoted people from various countries who will even take long overnight flights just to attend these teachings. This kind of thing happens. So when the Buddha turns the Dharma wheel, as long as one is able to go, many people will attend. At that time, there probably weren't any pandemics either. So when the Buddha truly turned the great Dharma wheel, everyone, first all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, those enlightened beings, went there. After the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas had arrived, they respectfully praised Shakyamuni Buddha, the revered teacher. After they arrived there, they praised Shakyamuni Buddha. What did they praise? That he was able to appear in the degenerate age of the 5 impurities. Among all the Buddhas of the 10 directions, Shakyamuni Buddha is the greatest and most extraordinary. He is like a white lotus flower, a Buddha who made 500 truly great vows. From what particular aspect did they praise him? What exactly did they praise him for? It was that among the sentient beings of this profoundly degenerate world of 5 impurities, he manifested inconceivable great wisdom and the power of great miraculous abilities. As for the Buddha's greatest, most profound and significant characteristic in the sacred ritual of the world-honored one, this is also precisely what we earnestly pray for every single day. He is praised as being like a white lotus flower. Moreover, he made 500 vows. In the Sutra of Compassionate Flower and the extensive biography of the world-honored one, when he was the Brahmin Haichen, sometimes we call him the Brahmin Haichen, and sometimes we call him the Brahmin Baohai. At that significant time, all the other devoted people who made solemn vows, they all carefully chose exceptionally pure places and truly pure, unblemished worlds. But what did Baohai alone choose? He chose the sentient beings of the world of 5 impurities and evils, because we, the sentient beings of this world of 5 impurities and evils, if there were not an especially powerful Buddha, no one would be truly willing to guide us. Even now, we are sentient, conscious beings in this vast human world, and we continue to exist, also in the world of 5 impurities and evils. If our Guru and our Buddha did not guide us, how could we ever encounter the true path? It would be extremely difficult. We should reflect on the merits of our teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha, and also those who are like the Buddha, the merits of our gurus as well. Everyone should truly feel a deep sense of gratitude and sincere appreciation. We really should. He is able, in the world of 5 impurities and evils, to manifest inconceivable wisdom and miraculous powers. As for the 5 impurities, everyone should be clear about them. But regarding these 5 impurities, when you have time, you can read the Yogacarabhumi Shastra. The Yogacarabhumi Shastra explains the 5 impurities in a rather unique way. For example, when it comes to the impurity of lifespan, in the distant past, sentient beings generally had very much longer lives indeed. For instance, they could live for several hundred or even tens of thousands of years. But now, the merit of sentient beings has become increasingly shallow. In the end, it is less than 100 years or so. So our lifespan is also very short. Nowadays, if someone can actually live to be 100 years old, everyone goes, wow, there's an old person, someone who's 100 years old. People bring lots of cameras and start taking pictures of their wrinkles. Because sentient beings are truly pitiful. When they see someone who is 100 years old, everyone finds it extremely rare. As for the rest, some individuals pass away in early childhood, while others can live for several decades. Look at what I'm saying. If I can live to 60 or 70 years old, oh, that would already be pretty good, because that's the only hope. In this world, life is very short. Many people here might experience the same thing. So this is what is meant by the impurity of lifespan. Life is like this. Then when it comes to the impurity of sentient beings, on the side of virtue, people don't practice properly. But for evil, they're good at it. For creating negative karma, because the entire character of sentient beings, for example, whether it's killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, or lying, if they engage in many negative actions, they are both skilled and capable and have a natural inclination for it. But when it comes to virtue, it's just like some of us trying to climb a mountain. It's extremely difficult. As for the impurity of afflictions, it's different from before. In the mind stream of sentient beings, greed, anger, and ignorance are extremely strong. Arrogance, jealousy, these differ from the past. This is the impurity of afflictions. Regarding the impurity of views, sentient beings hold strong wrong views. Why is it that some of us, as soon as we open our mouths, we point out others' faults? Our wrong views are quite heavy. In fact, others do have faults, but they also have virtues. Some of us have already formed a habit of this. For example, when coming to this Dharma hall, they don't say, this Dharma hall is so magnificent. Instead, there's a flaw here, a gap there. In the magnificent Dharma hall, they find one thing. Oh, that's not good. When they see a person, even if accomplished, they'll say, isn't good looking, or has a bad temper, find something to criticize. It's like a large sheet of paper with a tiny black spot on it, and they immediately point out that black spot. So we sentient beings truly have impure views. We often perceive things incorrectly. Impure views are indeed related to this. This also includes how, when people interact, they often like to say certain things. For example, some police officers, due to their habits and the nature of their profession, when they look at a person, they wonder, is this person stealing something or something like that? Because people who are police officers, whether they're from China or abroad, are all like this. Whenever you're with them, they're always observing a person's bad behaviors. They watch the person's eyes to see if they're stealing something. Just one quick look and they can immediately tell. Even if they're not wearing that particular kind of uniform, they still know. You can still tell that maybe this person was a police officer in a past life or is a police officer in this life. Even those who are already retired sometimes still have this habit. So sometimes people tend to just focus exclusively on the faults and shortcomings of others and don't look at their good qualities. That's also a sign of impure views. Our own habitual views are not very wholesome. If it were the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, or someone with very deep roots of virtue and excellent habits, even if they happen to notice a small flaw, they don't necessarily focus on it. Instead, they tend to look at the good aspects rather. But Shakyamuni Buddha embraces all sentient beings. There's also the impurity of the kalpa. The impurity of the kalpa may be related to the environment. At that time, as mentioned earlier, there would either be devastating wars, widespread famine, debilitating disease, or rampant epidemics, all of which would be spreading throughout the entire world and clearly manifesting themselves. Therefore, the Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, the sentient beings he taught, are those of the 5 turbidities and the evil world. We can really feel these 5 turbidities ourselves deeply and personally. As for our surrounding environment, it truly is an environment of war and famine. And our views, whether it's others or ourselves, there are very few correct views. Most are views of eternalism, nihilism, wrong views, and evil views. Everyone has abundant resources, yet there are still quite a lot of afflictions. Virtuous intentions are very weak, and so on. Sentient beings like this and so forth can only be liberated by the Buddha, who possesses unparalleled great compassion. Therefore, in front of these sentient beings, he manifests inconceivable wisdom and miraculous powers, and is able to subdue sentient beings who are stubborn and difficult to transform. Indeed, we sentient beings are still very stubborn and hard to transform. Even if the Buddha turned the Dharma wheel for them, the first, second, and third turnings, and even if the masters and spiritual teachers, with painstaking effort and heartfelt words, instruct us, our mind stream would not change in the slightest. Even if there is a slight change for a short period of time, we soon revert back to our original state. It's like someone with a severe mental illness, who for a brief moment seems to recover and wonders, is something wrong with me? Everyone thinks he has already returned to normal, but after a while he starts to relapse again. So in our human world, beings in this degenerate age are truly overwhelmed by afflictions and karma alike. In such an environment, genuine, authentic right knowledge, truly right view, and profound righteousness, these essential qualities are relatively weak within us as deeply ingrained habitual tendencies. That is precisely why the Buddha, with his immense wisdom and compassion, tames those beings who are stubbornly resistant and exceedingly difficult to transform, and understands the Dharma of suffering and happiness, of leaving suffering and attaining happiness, and knows how to help these beings leave suffering, how to help them attain happiness. The nectar-like sublime Dharma that he taught truly allows the mind stream of sentient beings to mature. Many of us here today do not merely revere the Buddha out of blind faith alone, but instead, through diligent study and dedicated practice, one should truly and profoundly realize the immense power and boundless wisdom of the Buddha are indeed inconceivable. That is precisely why we experience such profound and immeasurable joy. At that very significant moment, these enlightened Buddhas also wholeheartedly praise the immense and boundless greatness of the Buddha. What is so great about him? He liberates sentient beings. Therefore, in the future, Dharma teaches as well. The most important thing is to guide those who are stubborn and difficult to transform. Some people are especially afraid of those who are stubborn and hard to transform, including when speaking in class. They say, no, this person is quite too scary. But indeed, sometimes there is no other way. Many people, some Dharma teachers, for example, take all the unruly people and put them all under their own personal care and diligent supervision, and in the end, they themselves become especially miserable, experiencing profound suffering and distress. Consequently, all these enlightened Buddhas from various realms each sent their most trusted attendants to pay their deepest respects to the Venerable Shakyamuni Buddha. Perhaps Shakyamuni Buddha was also quite exhausted. The attendants of the Buddhas from the 10 directions came one by one, individually before the Buddha. So the Buddha himself might have been rather tired as well. But for the Buddha, there should always be a way to handle such situations. We truly don't need to worry, right? Well, let's stop here for today then.
Kirgana jirano chupai, jubun zonen droa droa
Bandangara Badna Asadardam Bandangara Badna Asadardam Bandangara Badna Asadardam